Hello everyone and welcome to the Onfinity training session. Today, we are going to learn about the customer return process. The customer return process in Onfinity helps businesses manage product returns efficiently and accurately, ensuring both customer satisfaction and proper inventory management. Let's begin by reviewing the agenda for today's session. We will walk through the complete process of handling a customer return, from the original sales order through to issuing a credit memo. Now, let's look at the objectives of this session. The objective of the session is to enable you to understand the customer return and its associated terms in the context of business processes. Additionally, it also enables you to test the customer return in the context of business requirements. Let's take a look on the prerequisites. Before we begin, please make sure you have the access to the Onfinity platform with a valid user ID and password. Onfinity basic setup and master data setup configurations must be completed and available. Now, let's move on to the customer return process use case. This use case is designed to help you understand how the entire customer return process operates in real-world scenarios. In this scenario, Green Energy Private Limited places a sales order with Sonic Ventures for 5 desktop computers and 10 Redmi Note 10 Red 128GB smartphones. It initiates the process in Onfinity, where the sales team records the order to ensure that the system captures all details accurately, including product specifications, quantities, and customer information. The sales team creates a sales order. Once the order is confirmed and delivered, Sonic Ventures generates a delivery order to acknowledge the delivery. The finance team then processes accounts receivable AR invoice, which is matched against the sales order and delivery to ensure accuracy. However, after delivery, Green Energy Private Limited identifies 2 defective Redmi Note 10 Red 128GB smartphones. The customer contacts Sonic Ventures to report the defect and request a return merchandise authorization, RMA. This step highlights the importance of customer communication and proper documentation to track returns and maintain service quality. Upon approval, Green Energy Private Limited ships the defective smartphones back to Sonic Ventures. Sonic Ventures records a customer return in the system, referencing the RMA to adjust the inventory and ensure accurate stock levels. Once the returned items are received and inspected, Sonic Ventures issues a credit memo to Green Energy Private Limited. It completes the return process, providing the customer with the appropriate financial adjustment while maintaining accurate financial records and reinforcing trust in the company's return procedures. Let's move on to our next topic, which is the customer return process flowchart. It gives a quick overview of the returns process to understand the complete flow. The process begins with a sales order, which represents the initial order placed by the customer. Once the order is processed, the next step is delivery, where the products are shipped to the customer. After the delivery is completed, the accounts receivable AR invoice is generated, reflecting the billing for the delivered products. If there is a need to return any items, the customer RMA, or return merchandise authorization, comes into play. This step allows the organization to authorize and track the return of goods from the customer. Following the customer RMA, the returned products are recorded under customer return, which ensures the inventory is updated and the returned items are managed appropriately. Finally, if the customer is eligible for a credit, an AR credit memo is generated to adjust the customer's account accordingly. Let's know the basic masters involved in the vendor return process. To record a customer return, here are some basic masters which must be available in the system. You must have a customer, a product or charge, an attribute, set instance, if applicable, a defined unit of measure, currency, a relevant price list, a set payment term and payment method, a designated warehouse, an RMA category or RMA type to define the reason for the return, and finally, a defined return rule. These master records ensure that the customer return process runs. That concludes the basic overview of the customer return process. By now, you should have a good understanding of the key steps and required master data. Now, let's move into the Onfinity ERP system to see step-by-step process how you can create and manage a customer return in practice. To get started, open the Onfinity URL in your browser. Here, enter your user ID, type in your password, and then click Login to access the system. Once you log into the system, you will land on the Onfinity homepage. Here, you can see various mosaics that display real-time data based on transactions recorded in the system. These mosaics provide valuable insights for analyzing the current business position. The availability of mosaics depends on the user's access rights and the modules installed in the system. It is important to note that the mosaics you see on your screen may not be the same as the ones currently visible on mine, since these can be rearranged or modified as per individual preferences. To make adjustments, simply go to the Mosaic section and click on it. From here, if you want to rearrange the location of an existing mosaic, simply select it and interchange its position with another. And if you want to insert another available mosaic, you can select it and drop it onto the home page. This is how you can easily adjust and organize mosaics in Onfinity. Let's close the mosaic section for now and move on to the customer return process. As we have already created the sales order and covered all the sales order process to delivery and AR invoice in our previous session, we will use the same orders in our customer return process. Once the customer contacts and asks for authorization, we just need to create a customer RMA. For creating a customer RMA, what you need to do is simple. Go to the menu. You can directly search customer RMA in the menu search utility, or you can go to the Sales and Marketing module. Under Sales and Marketing, go to Order Management. Here you will find the Customer RMA. Simply click on Customer RMA to open the Customer RMA screen. This will navigate you to the landing page of Customer RMA. Before we proceed further, let's take a moment to understand what a Customer RMA is. A Customer RMA, or Return Merchandise Authorization, is part of the process of returning a product to receive a refund, replacement, or repair, allowing both the customer and the business to decide how the return will be handled. It contains a reference to the original sales order and shipment, and acts as the base for creating the customer return transaction. On the Customer RMA landing page, you will also see several mosaics that help with filtering and basic analysis. These mosaics allow you to quickly locate and review RMA records based on different conditions. The values displayed in these mosaics are dynamically updated based on the available records on the Customer RMA screen. This means that any information recorded in the Customer RMA, such as warehouse, document status, return policy, customers, and RMA category, will be reflected in the mosaics automatically. Additionally, one of the chart mosaics shows customer returns by RMA category. This chart provides a visual summary of the reasons for returns, such as damaged goods or wrong items, helping to highlight the top reasons for customer returns. To add a new record, simply click on the New Record mosaic. This will open the screen in single record view. Here we start entering the details. First, select the organization, and then set the target document type as Customer RMA. Next, select the RMA category, which defines the reason for the return. However, this field is not mandatory, but it is primarily used for informational purposes. Depending on the case, if it is not required, you can leave it blank. In our use case, the return reason is defective, so we select Defective Type Return as RMA category. Next, select the original sales order. Based on this selection, the remaining details, such as the customer, invoice to business partner, customer location, bill to location, user contact, and invoice contact, will automatically populate. Then, select the original shipment that was created against the sales order. After that, set the RMA date. For now, we will set it as the 12th of July 2025, which represents the date on which the customer requested authorization for the return, and the customer RMA record is created in the system. In the description field, any additional notes or comments can be added. This field is purely informational, so we can leave it blank for now. Next, select the warehouse where the returned item will be received from the customer, ensuring it is stored in the correct location. For instance, we will select the Sonic Ventures warehouse. The return policy is automatically populated based on the customer setup. If we want to verify the customer configuration, we can use the Customer Field option to zoom into the customer details. This allows us to navigate directly to the Customer Master screen for the selected customer. From here, click on the customer name hyperlink to open the screen in single record view for a detailed view. Next, click on the Additional Conditions tab button to navigate to the Additional Conditions tab. Here, you will see that the return policy is already linked. If the return policy is not linked, the user will not be able to create the customer RMA, and the return process cannot be completed. Therefore, it is essential to ensure that the return policy is linked to the customer to enable processing of the customer return process. If you want to learn how to configure return rules or the return policy in the system, you can refer to the dedicated session on return policy. In that session, you will also learn how to restrict certain products from being returned, if required. This will give you a better understanding of how the rules and policies are configured. Now, let's move back to the Customer RMA screen. Based on the details we have entered, we simply need to save the header. Once the header is saved, we can move on to adding the RMA line. Once the RMA lines are added, the RMA tax tab will be automatically updated. Now click on the RMA line tab button to navigate to the RMA line tab and add the line details. To begin, click on New Record, which will open the screen in a single record view. Here, the first step is to select the original sales order line. Once that is chosen, you also need to select the original shipment line associated with that sales order line. In our case, since the customer is returning the Redmi Note 10, we will update the original sales order line to select the one corresponding to Redmi Note 10 product. Then you need to select the original shipment line of the product, which comes based on the original sales order line. After selecting the original shipment line, the product and the quantity will also be updated as per the shipment. As the defective quantity being returned is 2 units, we will update the quantity field accordingly. Save the line, and once the line is saved, the tax will also be updated automatically on the RMA tax tab. This can be verified directly through the RMA tax tab composite view, which is also available here in the composite view. The prices are pulled directly from the original sales order, and therefore, no changes can be made in the fields under the amount section. All these details are directly linked to the sales order and the corresponding delivery order. Now let's move back to the header. After verifying all the details, simply click on the Document Action button available in the header panel. Select Complete as the document action and then Confirm by clicking OK to finalize the record so that it can proceed for customer return processing. Once the customer RMA is created and approved, it serves as an acknowledgement that the return has been accepted under the defined return policy. After this, when the customer ships the product back and we receive it, the stock is updated in the warehouse by creating and completing the record of the customer return. Before moving to the customer return screen, let's first go back to the landing page of Customer RMA and check if the mosaics have been updated. Click on the Mosaic section and simply refresh the page. You will now see that all the mosaics are updated, and these can be used for filtration as needed. Now let's proceed to the Customer Return screen. To open the Customer Return screen, go to the menu and search for Customer Return using the menu search utility. Alternatively, you can navigate through Material Management, then under Storage Operations, you will find the option for Customer Return. Click on Customer Return to open it, and you will be directed to the landing page of the Customer Return. Customer return is a process in which the customer returns the purchased material due to any reason. Customer returns are generated against the customer RMA, and later the AR credit memo, also called the credit note, is used to allocate the return against the AR invoice. The customer return document contains the original sales order and shipment document against which the return takes place. On the landing page, we also have several mosaics that can be used for filtering records, such as advanced search, warehouse, document status, and customer. These mosaics will display hyperlinks once records are available, allowing us to filter and review the details in a similar way as we have seen earlier. We also have the customer return count, which displays the total number of items recorded in the screen with respect to each warehouse. This value updates automatically as new records are created. In addition, here is a delivery order versus customer return comparison chart, similar to the one we saw on the delivery order screen. This chart allows us to directly compare the deliveries made against the returns received. The top 10 highest stock products chart, which shows the products with the highest stock levels in the tenant. This helps in quickly identifying which items are most available in inventory. In last, Customer Return by RMA category chart displays the categories used for creating returns, such as damage, defects, or incorrect items, giving us a clear view of the key reasons for customer returns. Here we also have the Customer RMA mosaic. The Customer RMA mosaic allows us to create a customer return quickly, without entering all details manually. Click on the Customer RMA record shown in the mosaic, and the product lines will appear. Select the required line, and the Generate Customer Return button will be enabled. In this session, we won't use that method. Instead, we'll create it manually. To create a new record, simply click on the New Record mosaic, which will open the screen in Single Record View. Next, select the organization under which this particular return is being created. Then, select the document type, which will define the transaction process. In the Customer RMA field, you can either enter the customer RMA number directly or click on the field option. This will open a page listing all available customer RMAs. From here, select the appropriate RMA and confirm by clicking OK. After selecting the customer RMA, the rest of the details will be automatically updated. In the Movement Date field, we need to enter the date on which the item was actually received from the customer. For example, if the item was received on the 13th of July, we update the date accordingly. Next, save the header. There is an optional description field available where notes or comments can be added if needed. You will also see the original sales order number and the original delivery order number, which are populated automatically based on the customer RMA reference. Other details, such as warehouse, customer location, and customer contact, are also updated. The representative field is populated by default from the login user details, indicating the transaction representative. All remaining fields are automatically filled based on the customer RMA. To add lines, click on the Create Lines From button. This will open the Create Lines From page. The RMA is automatically populated from the header, so here we only need to select the locator, indicating where the received quantity is stored. Next, select the appropriate line and click OK to confirm. This will insert the line into the customer return. The Generate AR Credit Memo button becomes clickable once the record is completed. Additionally, the Review Posting button is available for reviewing the accounting postings. If you wish to review the posting before completing the record, you can do so by clicking on the Review Posting button. So now there is no proper posting. Logics are available for now, so we will proceed without posting. Click on the Complete Document Action button in the header panel and confirm by clicking OK. This will update and adjust the quantity in the warehouse accordingly. Now, to create an AR credit memo invoice, click on the Generate AR Credit Memo Invoice button, confirm the process by clicking OK, select the document type as AR Credit Memo, then enter an invoice document number as a reference, and you may enter any reference number for the credit memo. The Generate Charge checkbox is available if there are any charges included in the RMA. However, for the return process, this is not much useful, as it is primarily used for sales orders. For now, we will simply close this, and the AR credit memo will be created manually from the AR invoice screen. This means that both types of records, AR invoice and AR credit memo, can be generated from the AR invoice screen. Now let's move to the AR invoice screen. We can directly search for AR invoice using the menu search utility, or navigate through the Financial Management module. Under Financial Management module, go to Accounts Receivable, where you will find AR Invoice. Click on it to open the AR Invoice screen. You will then land on the landing page of the AR Invoice, where mosaics are available for filtering and analyzing records. We will not go into detail about these mosaics here, as they have already been explained in the dedicated session on AR invoices. To add a new record, simply click on the New Record mosaic, which opens the screen in Single Record View to enter the details. First, select the organization. Next, for defining the transaction, select the target document type as AR Credit Memo. Then, enter the invoice date, which indicates the date on which this AR invoice is being issued to the customer. For example, we will set it as the 13th of July. Based on the invoice date, the account date will be automatically updated. If there are any changes in the postings of the AR, the account date can be adjusted accordingly. Next, select the customer for whom the credit memo is being created. For our use case, it is Green Energy Private Limited. The remaining details, such as price list, currency, payment method, and payment term, are populated automatically from the Customer Master setup. Any changes, if required, can be made at this stage. Now, save the header. Next, click on the Create Lines From button. This will open the Create Lines From page. Here, you can select the RMA, but since the customer return has already been created, we will use that. To do this, click on the Shipment Receipt field option. This will display the available return records. Select the required record and confirm by clicking OK. Once the customer return is selected in the Shipment Receipt field, select the appropriate line and click OK. The line will then be inserted into the AR Credit Memo. Once the line is inserted and verified, click on the Document Action button and confirm by clicking OK to complete the record. This finalizes the process. Once the record is completed, the process comes to an end. This concludes our session on managing customer RMA, processing customer returns, and generating AR credit memos in Onfinity. Today, we have seen how to efficiently create and track RMA records, handle returned items, and complete the AR credit memo process while ensuring all details flow correctly from the original sales and delivery records. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions or require further assistance, please feel free to reach out.